Greetings, brothers and sisters. Thanks for coming back for the next part of the Ezekiel story. I do believe that Ezekiel's count is still in play. There was a short time when I thought, well, maybe Ezekiel's count wasn't for us for these end times. I've got something really exciting to share with you guys, and I trust and believe that it'll be a blessing to you. Today is the 1st of January, and it's about 8:30 in the evening. We've had a nice restful day, just relaxing and enjoying the first day of the new year on the Gregorian calendar. I decided to put a video together to share with you what I've discovered with regards to Ezekiel. Those of you that have been watching my last couple of videos will know that I believe that Ezekiel was giving us a countdown to the escape of the bride. That the whole book of Ezekiel was not only a Watchman story and a warning for the tribe of Judah before the first destruction of the temple, leading up to the first destruction of the temple, but that it's also a book for us, a countdown and a warning for the beginning of the tribulation and the destruction of Jerusalem yet again, and the beginning of this 14 years of tribulation. But just a bit of a recap. You'll know that we've been monitoring the Ezekiel count of 430 days. We believe that the start was the 7th of October 2023, the day that Hamas attacked Israel. And it's also a day that Israel has been counting even to this day. I think they are sitting on 452 days today. So yeah, we believe that was a parallel of Ezekiel's count, which would lead us to the next attack on Israel and Jerusalem in particular, and mark the beginning of the first, then mark the taking of the bride, the escape of the bride, and the beginning of the 50 days, which would bring us to the start of these 14 years of tribulation. So if we just, we're going to go back and have a look at the calendar to see where we were and how things have panned out, and why for a moment in time I believed that maybe Ezekiel's count was not relevant to us. However, there's just one more shot at Ezekiel's count, and I do believe that this is it. So I want to just share that with you. So I'm going to get this out of the way. If we have a look at where we were, you'll recall that we started the count of the 430 days on the 7th of October, which took us through to a completion of the 430 days on the 9th day of the 9th month on the Jews' calendar, which we believe to be the equivalent of the 9th day of the 5th month on the Lord's calendar. If you'll recall that in my previous video I went into quite a lot of detail explaining how I believe that the 9th month on the Jews' calendar in the Lord's eyes is the 5th month. And that's largely because of the progression of the equinox, where it has moved 4 months since the sun and moon and stars were created. 4 months have shifted, and so because the equinox has shifted, our seasons have also shifted. And I believe that it's not incorrect to follow the shifting equinox and the shifting seasons, because the biblical calendar is built around the agricultural cycle. The feast days are really underpinned by the agricultural cycle, and if the seasons shift, then one would understand that the feast days would shift accordingly. However, there is a very strong possibility that we are to understand that in the Lord's eyes, he does not take the shifting seasons into consideration. So his beginning of the year remains where it was at the time of creation. So I'm not going to go into great detail to explain that again in this video. There's a video that the video that I did in this video, a review of Ezekiel's 340 days almost there. If you have a look at this video from the 46th minute, for about 15 minutes into that video, from the 46th minute, you will find the explanation of that, detailed explanation of how it is that the 9th month on the Jews calendar could well be the 5th month in the Lord's eyes. So for those, just to make it a bit easier, what I will do is I'll put that 15 minutes, that I'll put a clip at the end of this video, for those that want to just review that explanation of the difference of the 4 months between the Lord's calendar and the Jews calendar. I think that's a very important thing that we need to understand, because I believe that we can't understand Ezekiel's warning properly without that understanding. If that understanding is incorrect, then it's possible that this Ezekiel's account may not be valid for us. At this point in time, I believe that we still got one more shot at the Ezekiel warning, and so that's what I just want to share with you, how it is possible that Ezekiel's count may still be in play, and it's all to do with where we started the count. We started the count on the 7th of October based on an event that happened with regards to an attack from Hamas. But is that really the true start? Is that where we're supposed to start the count? I'm beginning to question whether that is a valid start. If we have a look at the Ezekiel story, we're given 2 dates in this count. We're given the 5th day of the 4th month, for the start of the story. This was the day that Ezekiel saw the glory of the Lord, and then the next date that we're given is at the end of the warning account, the enactment that he had to do, and he had completed it by the 5th day of the 6th month in the following year. So those are the 2 dates that we're given: the 5th day of the 4th month and the 5th day of the 6th month the following year. It's interesting that in the story there are at least 2 other instances where Ezekiel's where the key dates are the 5th of the month. There was another key date on the 5th of the 10th month. So if we just do a quick search, we see that there's the 5th day of the 4th month that was valid. Then it was the 5th day of the that was the 5th day of the 6th month in this, and then was again the 5th day of the 10th month, where he got information as to that Jerusalem had been, the city had been smitten. So in the Ezekiel book, the 5th day seems to be quite an important day to take account of. That was the date that we're given as a start date, and the 6th of the 5th month, or the 5th of the 6th month in the following year, is the date we're given as an end date. If we go back and have a look at what day it was, on the 7th of October was the 22nd day of the 7th month. In fact, sorry, it was the 22nd day of the 7th month. It was the 8th day of Tabernacles. The date here bears no relation to the Ezekiel story, in fact. We see that the actual date that we're given now, bearing in mind that we've got a 4 months difference. So if we take off the 4 months in the Lord's eyes, that this 7th month would be the 3rd month. So this would be the 22nd day of the 3rd month in the Lord's eyes. And so the 5th day of the 4th month, the start date that we're given in Ezekiel chapter 1, would actually be the 5th day of the 8th month on the Hebrew calendar, on the Jews calendar. 5th day of the 8th month being 4 months, with that 4 months difference, if you're taking that 4 months difference into account. So we're seeing that actually the start should have been somewhere around the 19th or the 20th of October. In fact, if you go and have a look on the Hebrew calendar, the 5th day of the 8th month is the 20th of October. There's always a 1-day difference between this chart and the Hebrew calendar. That is because the Jews start their month after the new moon day. In other words, they don't include the new moon day as part of their month. Day 1 of their month would be what I believe to be the 2nd day of the month. So in other words, I believe that the 1st day of the month is in fact new moon day. But that is not how the Jews have laid out their calendar. They've got the 1st day of the month, the day after the new moon. So that's why there's always a 1-day difference between what I'm showing here. So for them, their 5th day of the 8th month would have been the 20th of October, although I do believe that the true 5th day of the 8th month was the 19th of October of 2023. So if that was the beginning, I had to ask myself, well, what actually happened here? Why is it possible that we missed something? So I went and started looking into the events, and I came across this Wikipedia thing where it's actually said here that it noted that the Hamas starting on the 7th of October, immediately after Hamas-led attacks on Israel, it began to bomb the Gaza Strip. So the first attack from Hamas is recorded as 7 October, as we know it. Then they bombarded the Gaza Strip, and they had a few ground incursions where they went in and out. They didn't stay in Gaza, they went in and out. But it was only on the 27th of October that a full-scale invasion was launched. So this is actually the point of no return. This was the point of no return as far as the war in Gaza is concerned, it seems. It was the day that so they spent about 3 weeks preparing for this invasion. The actual invasion started on the 27th of October. And when I looked at that on the map, I saw something very interesting. Sorry, let's just go back to... I saw this. So the 27th October, over here, on the Jews' calendar, it's the 12th of the 8th month. Okay, I've got it as the 13th of the 8th month. Again, I've explained that already. So on the 12th of the 8th month, on the Jews' calendar, they started their invasion of Gaza. That was the point of no return in terms of the war. And they've never come out of Gaza again. Where the previous incursions, they went in and out a few times, and they bombed it from the air. But this was the first point at which they went in, and they have not come out of Gaza again in terms of the invasion of Gaza. So it's interesting to know that it was exactly a week after the start that we're given, the 5th of the 8th month, which is the 5th of the 4th month in the Lord's eyes, Ezekiel's start date. 7 days later would be the 12th of the 8th month, and it was the 27th of October on the Jews' calendar. That is the date that they started the Gaza invasion. Exactly 7 days later, and we know in the Ezekiel story, there's a 7-day gap between him seeing the glory of the Lord and him actually receiving his instructions. So he went into the plain. Let me just find that again. Okay, and he sat astonished among them 7 days. So after seeing the glory of the Lord, he was astonished. Ezekiel was astonished for 7 days, and it came to pass at the end of 7 days that the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. So it was 7 days after he had seen the glory of the Lord that he was appointed as the watchman of Israel. And then he was given the instructions with regards to the 390 and the 40 days, totaling 430 days. And it was an enactment that he had to do with regards to the besiege and attack on Jerusalem. So he had to enact this for a total period of 430 days, which between those two dates that we're given do fit in on the Hebrew calendar in a 13th month year. It was a total of 444 days between the two dates that we're given, the 5th day of the 4th month and the 5th day of the 6th month, which was a year and 2 months exactly. And in a long year, that would be 440 days. So we can fit the 430 days in, and the 7 days that prior to him actually starting the 430 days. And then we've got a remainder of about 6 or 7 days at the end as well. So everything fits in. But the big question for us now has been, where should we actually start? Well, maybe we should have actually been a little bit more careful about picking our start date. And I do believe that we were given a start date. And there was the start date. The first day of the 4th month. But the 5th day of the 4th month on the Lord's calendar, which has to relate to the 5th day of the 8th month on the Jews' calendar. So we should have really started the 444-day count from around the 19th or the 20th of October. That's where we should have started our 440-day count. Okay, so we leave 7 days, brings us to the 27th of October. So from 27th October, we should be able to count now 430 days from the 27th of October, which will bring us to, so I've just updated it now to say if we start a count from 27th of October, as opposed to the 7th of October, then the completion of that would bring us through to that's the end of the 390 days, was the 19th of November, and then the end of the 430 days, the last day of the 430 days was the 29th of December. That would have been the end of the 430 days. And then we've got this remaining 6 days. If you've been following my previous videos, if you haven't watched the previous videos, you might not follow this exactly. So just go back and have a look at these just go and review this video. I would say these 4 videos here will give you a good, but definitely that one and this last one, you definitely need to have a look at it. This one Brian and I did, and I explained again the 6 days. So actually these 2 videos will bring you up to speed on everything with regards to the Ezekiel count, except for this what I'm just sharing you now, and that is the what I believe to be the correct start of the 430-day count. So the end of the 430-day count would have brought us here to the 29th day of the 9th month, which would have been the 29th day of the 5th month in the Lord's eyes. Then we've got this 6-month grace. So the end of the count, which was the 5th day of the 6th month in the Lord's eyes, which would be the 5th day of the 10th month on the Jews' calendar. Remember, you've got to add 4 months to the equation. So we are looking here now on the Jews' calendar. They've got the 5th of the 10th month on the 5th of January. Okay, there's always this, again, there's this 1 day difference between what I've got, what I believe to be the true calendar. So anywhere from the 4th of January, would either the 4th of January or the 5th of January would be the end date, Ezekiel's end date. If we started the true, if we considered the true start date of Ezekiel's count on the 5th of the 4th month to be October 20th, around October 19, October 20th of 2023, then the end of that time period, the last date would be given, the 5th of the 6th month would be this 4-5 January. I'm leaning more towards 5 January for the full completion to have taken place. So at this point, but I would leave an open window of at least 3 days. Any time between the 4th of January to the 6th of January, I believe is a high watch, with the 5th of January in particular being a high watch date for us. So the only difference between the previous count and this count is the start date, and I do believe that we based our start on an action on the part of Hamas, but I believe that we should have actually started the count on an action on the part of Israel. The point in time where I think that the Lord, this I believe is where the Lord, and it also fits in more clearly with the kickoff dates. If this is correct, that might just explain why we missed the mark with regards to our regional count as far as Ezekiel's 430 days is concerned. I do believe with everything that's in me that the Ezekiel is the watchman of watchmen. He's the only person that was appointed as a watchman by the Lord. The Lord said, I have made thee a watchman. He was personally appointed as a watchman by the Lord. He was given a task of enacting for more than a year, which took a huge amount of personal sacrifice on his part, and he did so in obedience. He had to go about enacting this thing, and then following that, he actually had to walk out of Jerusalem naked. He had to walk out of not Jerusalem. He wasn't in Jerusalem at the time. He had to enact the walking out of Jerusalem naked. He was at the time when he received this vision, he was in captivity. He was in his 5th year of captivity, and he was 30 years old, and his ministry had just started. He was 25 years old when he went into captivity, and he enacted these things in obedience to the Lord's instructions. He even had to forego the mourning of his beloved wife at the end of this enactment. During that 6-year period, when he completed this enactment, by the way, nothing happened immediately. He also had to endure possibly the scoffing of his fellows, because nothing happened for 6 years after he delivered this warning. For 6 years, nothing happened, and only 6 years later was Jerusalem attacked and destroyed, and the temple was destroyed. The first temple was destroyed. So he had to for 6 years endure the mockery, probably, or at least within himself, he had to hold tight to what the Lord had given him, knowing that it would happen, but he wasn't given the actual start date at that point in time. He was just told to enact this warning for the house of Judah at that point in time. It was also a warning for the house of Israel. Interesting enough that they were already out of their land. And I believe that the reason why both the house of Israel and the house of Judah was included in this warning is because this warning was not only for that time. It was not only for the time of when Judah was in the land, and they were about to be booted out for 70 years. And the temple was destroyed. But it was also for this end times understanding that right now we understand that the 10 tribes that are dispersed are the house of Israel with the Gentiles grafted in. And that Ezekiel's warning was just as much for this time. It amazes me how we accept that Ezekiel's 38 and 39 war, the prophecy against Gog, Ezekiel 38-39, we understand to be an end time event. We're quite happy to accept the prophecy of that. We're quite happy to accept that Ezekiel's vision of the temple and the measurements, in fact, even the design of the new temple that the Jews are seeking to build, are based on Ezekiel's description from chapter 40 onwards. So how is it that we're not prepared to consider that his first 8 chapters are a warning? So Ezekiel's, if we have a look at the book, is split up into sections. The first section, the first 8 chapters, are the warning of the pending destruction of Jerusalem and the temple. And then the next 16 chapters from chapter 9 to 24 is all about the Lord describing the state in which the house of Judah was in, and the apostasy that was going on, and the So a great deal of detail is provided of exactly what was going on there. And when you read it, you find that it's not much different to what's happening right now with regards to the apostasy of the church. Then from chapters 25 to 32, we have the judgments that the Lord will impose on the nations. So it's all these nations that came against Israel and Judah at the time, and this is describing the judgments against the nations through to chapter 32. So again, this will be a prophetic warning for the nations, for those that will inevitably abuse the situation when Israel is attacked and Jerusalem is attacked, and the Lord lifts his hand of protection from them. But they will be judged for it. And all those judgments are described in Ezekiel. It's from chapters 25 to 32. Then from 33 to 39 are more judgments, but it's also more related to the shepherds, the powers and principalities, and Gog. And it's also within these chapters that the Lord promises to restore Israel and the remnant. So, and then from chapter 40 onwards is the last section, which describes the temple, the dimensions of the temple, and then also it gets into describing the millennial reign and the Lord, and how the Lord God will be with his people. So the book of Ezekiel is the watchman of watchmen, in my view. And at this point, this will be if January comes and goes, and we don't see the escape of the bride at that point in time, I think that would put Ezekiel's count to bed. However, I do believe that we're going to see it happen. I believe with all my heart. I can't see why the Lord would have taken Ezekiel through this. I believe that Ezekiel will sit one day and he would say to us, I went through all of that so that you guys would see it and pick up on the warning. And unfortunately, I think that the majority of the church and the majority of the watchmen that are watching right now have disregarded Ezekiel's warning completely, which I think is in error. We don't have much time to go before. We just got a few days. I believe within the next couple of days we'll know whether this is correct. So, I'm holding out for the Ezekiel story to complete itself, and hopefully the adjustment in the start time, as I've just described now, will come to fruition, and that we will be beginning our next phase in our walk with the Lord. And I hope this will bless you, and that you'll find it helpful in your studies. Just a reminder, at the end of this video, I'm going to attach the section of that last video, which covers the 4 months difference between the Lord's calendar and where we are now in terms of the Jews' calendar. Thank you for listening, and may God bless you and keep you. Amen. So what I would like to do now is I want to go and show you why I believe the 9th month, as we understand it to be now on the Jews' calendar, to be in fact the 5th month in the Lord's eyes. And for that we need to go back to a little bit further back to the beginning of when the sun, moon and stars were created. To that effect, we need to just refer. I just want to take you through this. Some of you will remember this chart that we understood, the fractals. I'm just going to use this chart to demonstrate what our understanding is in terms of the creation, where it was 3 sets of 7,000 years. We had the 7,000 years of the time of the Spirit, before that was 7,000 years. If we were present there at that point in time, that would have felt like 7,000 years. That was the lead up to the creation. We had the creation, the 7 days of creation, with 7 days, which was 7,000 years. A day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like a day. So we had the creation, 7,000 years, and then we have the time of Adam, the 7,000 years for Adam. Adam came after this initial creation, and we are now living in this 7,000 years of Adam. We're at the end of this 6,000 years. We're about to go into the final 1,000 years of the reign of the Messiah, the reign of Jesus Christ. That's where we're at the moment. So if we are to understand, now we understand that from Genesis 1:14, that the sun, moon, and stars is the calendar. Genesis 1:14, and it came to Genesis 1:14, and God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night, and to let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years, and let them be for lights." And so we know from Genesis 1:14, this was the beginning of the calendar. Until the sun and the moon and the stars were created, there was no day and night, no years, no seasons. This was the beginning of the calendar as we know it. This is our calendar. The sun, moon, and stars is our calendar. So to understand the beginning of the calendar, we have to go back to when the sun, moon, and stars were created. And so if we do that, we can go back to our understanding in terms of when they were created. So if we're sitting at the 6,000 year end of the 6,000 years here, we know that in terms of the creation week, or the 7,000 years of creation, the sun, moon, and stars were created on the 4th day. And the evening and the morning, the 4th day. That was the sun, moon, and stars were created on the 4th day. So if we say that this is in this 1,000 years here is when the sun, moon, and stars were created, it would be at this point in time when the actual calendar started. So if we are supposed to make adjustment for the movement of the seasons, which is about a month every 2,000 years or so, then that movement or that shift of the seasons would have started when the sun, moon, and stars were created. So that would be the last 6,000, and then this would be 7,000, 8,000, 9,000, and somewhere between 9,000 and 10,000 years ago. Somewhere between 9,000 and 10,000 years ago is when the sun, moon, and stars were created. Now we cannot, it would be impossible to say whether the sun, moon, and stars were created at the beginning of this 1,000-year period, or in the middle of the 1,000-year period, or at the end. So just for argument's sake, let's just take the middle. So if we take a total of 9,500 years to when the sun, moon, and stars were created, and then we see with the precession of the equinox being about 2,000, about a month every 2,000 years. So where we get that from is we know that the precession of the equinox would take 26,000 years to complete a full circle. So 26,000 divided by 12 would give you 2,166 years to complete 1 month change, to move by 1 month. So we can count how many months the equinox has moved since the creation 9,500 years ago. So for that we need to go to stellarium. Now you know that stellarium is based on a calculation of the movement of the sun, moon, and stars, which are so predictable to the second that we can actually calculate exactly where the sun, moon, and stars were thousands of years ago. And there's nothing, of course. Yes, the equinox, now the the equinox has shifted, and that's what I want to show you. So we know where the equinox is. We've got in this diagram, we're looking at, and this is the way I just prefer to look at stellarium. It's based on the flat Earth model. This whole calculation is based on a geocentric principle. The flat Earth model is a geocentric principle. If you believe that we're on a globe Earth, that's fine. The calculation remains exactly the same. It's just a lot easier to show it in a flat Earth model. Okay, but the principles remain exactly the same in the globe model. The only difference is in the flat Earth model we see the equinox, which is the crossover between the ecliptic. The red line is the ecliptic. That's the line in which the sun, moon, and stars and all the moving stars move. They move on the ecliptic. It's slightly off center from the equator. The blue line here is the equator, and they are slightly off center. So the ecliptic there's the center of the blue line. The ecliptic center is over here somewhere, and they're off center. And where they cross over, that crossing over is the equinoxes. There's two equinoxes, one there, one there. This would be in our time now, this would be the spring equinox from a northern hemisphere perspective, and this would be the autumn equinox from a northern hemisphere perspective. And then you've got the two solstices when the sun is closest to the northern hemisphere, around June period, and then you've got the other solstice when the sun is furthest away from the northern hemisphere. The winter solstice would be this point over here on the ecliptic. So this whole circle moves around, kind of like a hula hoop moves around your body. If you imagine your body being the centerpiece, the blue, and the hula hoop would move around your body in a circle in that form. The speeds of the sun, moon, and stars it doesn't change. Just the ecliptic line, swings around like a hula hoop around the body of a person. So we want to just see now. This is what we're looking at today. We see that today is the beginning of the 9th month, and today was New Moon Day. So tomorrow the first sliver should appear, and so tomorrow would be tonight we should see the first bit of light. So tomorrow will be first working day, not the first day of the month, but the first working day. And so anyway, the point I want to make is look at where the sun, moon, and stars. It's in this constellation here with Scorpio, and so we need to understand. Just keep that's the picture. We're sitting in the 9th month of a year. Okay, just remember this picture. All right. So now we want to go back. 9,500 years. So we've got to. So to go back 9,500 years on this BC, because the stellarium is based on the Gregorian calendar, we must go back 7,500 to minus 7,500. Okay, because we've got 7,500 BC and plus 2,000 years of AD. So that's a total of 9,500. So at minus 7,500 would put us where the sun, moon, and stars and the ecliptic and the equinoxes were at the time when the sun, moon, and stars were created. So if we have a look at where the equinoxes occur, there's the one equinox there, and here's the other one here where the 2 points where they cross. So this would have been the spring equinox, and this would be the autumn equinox. So if we go and adjust so that the sun is at the spring equinox, okay, there's the sun now at the spring equinox. And there's the moon just after. So let's just take it one day back. That's New Moon Day. And we see this is now at the spring equinox, so this would have been the beginning of the year, and I believe that the true beginning of the year has always been at spring. It's the beginning of everything. It's when things begin to grow from a northern hemisphere perspective. If the Garden of Eden was in the southern hemisphere, then perhaps there was a 6-month change. I just can't find any evidence that Adam and Eve were based in the southern hemisphere. If I look at the description of Enoch, Enoch describes the luminaries, the movement of the luminaries, and if we look at that description, it seems to be that he was describing it from a northern hemisphere perspective. So at this point in time, I'm fairly convinced that the beginning of the year has always been spring from a northern hemisphere perspective. And that's what we've got in this picture here now. So we've got about the 20th of the 5th month to be the beginning of the year in 9,500 years ago. So where would be, if this is the beginning of the first month, where would be the beginning of the 5th month? Where would the sun be for the beginning of the 5th month? Okay, so then we need to go forward 4 months to get to the beginning of the 5th month. So that would be the beginning of the 1st month, 2nd month, 3rd month, 4th month, and then the beginning of the 5th month. See where now I'm going to just zoom in a little bit. See where the sun, where's the moon? There's the moon there. So we can come back a few days just to bring them together. Okay, there's new moon day for the beginning of the 5th month, 9,500 years ago. And look at that picture. Remember I said to you, remember the picture? Remember the picture where the sun is? Now, right now where we are at in terms of 2024, 1 December 2024, which is the beginning of the 9th month. Here we're looking at a picture 9,500 years ago. This is the beginning of the 5th month. I think it's fairly clear. I think that based on this understanding, 2024, I'm just going to go back to today's date, 12/1. See, it's the same picture. Sun and the moon in Scorpio, same picture. So if we're on the Hebrew calendar, we're at the beginning of the 9th month. Based on the beginning, when the sun, moon, and stars were created, this would be the beginning of the 5th month. So when you go back to this calendar here, I said to you, well, let's just go back to this version that I've marked up. When we say here that we are here today, 1st of December, and it's the beginning of the 9th month, that this, in God's eyes, in terms of where the beginning was, so what we're saying is the Lord is ignoring the shifting of the seasons. It's ignoring the shifting of the seasons, which is due to the shifting of the ecliptic. And therefore, this month is actually his true 5th month.